Peace, Patrick, Conservative Rap, and in this video I'd like to talk about the future of Western civilization. I believe personally we're at a crossroads in history. It's a unique focal point these times that we live in because we have America, in my mind, as the last standing refuge of liberty and of freedom. In essence, if America falls, to me, the world will fall with it. And what's also happening concurrently is the merger into an almost sci-fi-like reality with the advent of space travel, with the advent of artificial intelligence. So it's a really fascinating thing because we're stepping into this abstraction of a reality, right? Artificial intelligence, internet, augmented reality. But at the same time, you have basic logic itself seemingly like becoming absent, like particularly when it comes to maintaining a civilization, maintaining a nation such as America. It's very interesting to see a basic logic becoming effectively like an antique object. When it comes to the defense of Western civilization, in my mind, Trump is one of the few examples of how a man stands for civilization. It's like he's the last standing true patriarch. We also have what I'd like to think of as like a problem with the race issue, particularly in America. I have a few posts. You might see some things from me where I say like, are whites today guilty for slavery, which happened centuries ago? Or, quote unquote, the word racism operating like it's a hypnotic trance. And what I'm trying to speak to is this whole institution, because you have whites today almost afraid to speak up for themselves with love for fear of being targeted. It kind of makes sense, right? Like if you're branded as a racist, I mean, that's your pension, it's your reputation, your career, it's your pretty much everything you've worked for in your life could be like sabotaged or undermined if you're tarred and feathered, almost like a social decapitation with this magical word racism. But at the same time, like, if you have love, you don't have fear, right? And I think it's time for blacks and for whites to start speaking up with love so that they can communicate in the right way when the time is right, and we're not falling into this like race baiting that's really undermining the citizenry. You have a nation of citizens that are conditioned to view each other as their enemy, while there's a deep state political class slowly over decades retrieving more and more power. So you have like the white and black issue. You have the male and female issue. There's tons of like issues where the people are divided and we're not really aware of how power is being stripped from us, and we're becoming like more and more unconscious almost with each generation. So there's like an Overton window where you see that with social media starting to like collapse. There's basically like this narrative of race slowly like coming back into the sphere of open discussion, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, etc. Rumble is another good example, X. And then I take a look at like countries like South Africa. Think about what's happening there. In my mind, if we don't learn to, again, speak up with love and address these issues, what's happening in South Africa could easily like happen in America. There's that whole news clip where you have people from South Africa coming to America. Trump kind of brought some of them in. And the reality is they may face in very short order, if we don't check some of this stuff, the same issues that they face there. There's also like the terror issue in Colorado that happened recently. And again, I'm very grateful for Trump. We're slowly starting to put some walls and institutions to like check a lot of this rampant like undermining of Western civilization. And the reality is, if we don't, America may become like a third world. It may become like those countries you hear in the Middle East where just, terror is like normal, unfortunately. So it was JLP, Jesse Lee Peterson, that really put me onto this manner of thinking. Again, in my mind, we're in an early stage South Africa, and we need to be careful of not accepting ways of thinking that are fundamentally incompatible with the proper maintenance and structure of civilization. It's almost like the fall of Rome, if you think about it, where you see some of these social trends the progression of leftist narratives, like what they ultimately culminate into. It's also why I spend a lot of my time, if you look at some of my prior writings, talking about like self-discipline, self-control, self-awareness. Those are the skill sets I think we need to return to. We need to return to manhood, strong men, almost like how Trump stands in regard to the country. Men need to stand in regards to their own circumference, their own reality, so that we can keep order and keep this free, progressive, innovative thing we have called Western civilization running into the future in the right and correct way. The problem, like I think about with like space travel, though, is if you like run from a problem, if you run from evil, evil will follow you wherever you go. So one thing I think about is, okay, let's say we create space travel, right? Because that's my theory. Like my actual prediction is, in 5 years, we'll see so many significant advents in space travel that even if America falls, we'll have like in space, almost like a separate colony, almost like a Gundam Wing, if you remember that video. And we need to get out of this habit of running from fierce conversations, running from speaking up with love in the proper format and proper context, not with anger, not in a reactionary standpoint, but properly and accurately addressing lies and addressing these corruptive, corrosive, psychotic, radical ideologies and nipping them in the bud. The other thing I want to make sure we're careful of is on the right, within the conservative movement, not worshiping or idealizing Trump. We're fortunate to live in a time where we have him as the example of how to deal with some of this stuff. But again, I think he's an example, right? Let's institute some of those principles in our own lives and making sure we're standing on our own square. It's why I started Conservative Rap. I'm working to formalize this America First pro-Western civilization ideology with an underpinning of traditionalist thinking, the vehicle being like the emceeing, the poetry itself, conservative rap in principle as a whole. What do you think? Where are we headed as a civilization? What's the future of Western civilization? Feel free to leave your thoughts and comments below, and look forward to more shortly.